Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It is super freezing in the basement, which is why I have on this giant sweater and this little like mask thing. Also, Corona. But today I'm continuing my Q&A videos. Today we're talking about writing and books and stuff like that. So not plants, but don't worry, there are going to be more plant videos coming. I just like to talk about other stuff once in a while. Is that a crime? So let's just jump into these questions. Question number one: what is your favorite book slash story? Um, well, if you've watched any of my other videos, you probably already know the answer to this. It's The Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings are my they're my favorite books. The Silmarillion is actually my favorite book. I really like The Lord of the Rings as well, and that story is just it's just classic. It's fantastic. It's deep. It's the grandfather of fantasy. You can't not like it. Question number two: who is your favorite author? Um, Tolkien. But I also really like Robin Hobb. She also writes fantasy, and she has an incredible voice. Her characters are so well realized and deep and well rounded. Um, yeah, I really like her books and her work. Question number three: what is your favorite genre? Fantasy. If you haven't figured that out by now, it's fantasy. I read other stuff. I read, the classics, and I read sci-fi, but fantasy is definitely the number one favorite that I have. Question number four: what is the longest book you've read? I don't know, actually. That's a good question. I haven't read anything like Anna Karenina or anything huge like that. Um, I think maybe a Robin Hobb book is probably the biggest book that I've read, and that's probably like 800 pages. I think was the biggest one that I've read so far. I haven't finished her whole Elderling series, but I'm working my way through it. But yeah, I'd say about like 800 pages is probably the biggest book, biggest paperback book that I've read. Question number five: what is the funniest book you've read? Uh, the funniest book I've read. I don't really read much like comedy stuff. I'd have to say I read this book once called Mr. Moe's Traveling Couch, and I think that was a little comedic. I can't be sure though because I was in high school the last time that I read it. Uh, but I'm just gonna go with that one. It might be like a drama, and I'm just telling everybody it's a comedy, but who knows? Question number six: what is the saddest book you've ever read? That's an easy one. It's this book called Tin Man by Sarah Winman. Um, and it's this story about like just like loss and grief. It's a story about like coming to know who you are and what you want and who you love and stuff like that. But it's gut wrenching. The whole thing is just filled with this sense of grief, and it's written so well into the story. Yeah, it's definitely the saddest book that I've read, and one of the best books that I've read. Question number seven: have you ever seen a movie that was better than the book? um, this is going to be kind of controversial, but the Hobbit movies. I liked the Hobbit movies way better than the book. Um, the Hobbit, the book is kind of like childish, and the movies were much more adult, and I think they fit better with the feel of the Lord of the Rings. That being said, when you watch the Hobbit and then you watch the Lord of the Rings, there's a big difference in the writing between the movies, like the trilogies. But that's also like Hollywood and writing and stuff like that. So I think there was a lot more to pull from the Lord of the Rings than the Hobbit when making the movies. But I definitely think that the Hobbit movies are better than the book. Also, I think the Twilight movies are better than the Twilight books. I've read the Twilight books. They were rough, and the movies were terrible, but you know what? They were still better. Question number eight: is there a genre you don't like? Yes. I don't know if you'd call it a genre or more just like a age bracket, but there are two that I don't like. I don't like middle grade fiction, and I don't like young adult. So middle grade, I never really read middle grade fiction. in grade 7 or grade 8, we had a teacher who immediately plunked us down into Jane Austen and was like, you need to start reading this rather than the like middle grade books or the young adult books that we were reading at the time. And so growing up with that teacher and then jumping into high school, I just found that middle grade and young adults, reading them just felt like I was going backwards. The stories were all the same. There wasn't a whole lot of like depth or detail or intrigue in these books. And I've read a lot of young adult stuff. Like I've read the Harry Potter books, I've read Twilight, I've read other series like that. And I don't know. There's something about the writing style. It just seems so like dull, I guess, is how I can put it. And a lot of people on YouTube, a lot of people on like BookTube and AuthorTube are obsessed with middle grade and young adult fiction. And whatever you like, that's great. You should read whatever you like. I can never get into it. Question number 9: do you read books based on recommendations from friends or family? I should say yes, but to be honest, I probably don't. I'm really bad with books because I'm one of those people who like, I'll pick up a book and I'll judge it by its cover. And you know what? I think everybody does that anyway. They say you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but everybody judges a book by its cover. I just kind of read what I think would be interesting, and I'll pick up a book, I'll read the back, and if it intrigues me, then I will get it and I will read it. And I may not like it. I'm kind of a hard ass when it comes to rating books. But I'm the same with movies, so. Question number 10: do you think there's more value in reading than watching TV? No. No, I don't think there's more value in reading. I think it's important to read as much as you watch TV. I don't really watch a lot of TV myself, but it's just because it takes a lot to kind of hold my interest now. But I think that when it comes to watching TV, you can get as much value out of television as you can a book. A character on television was still written by someone. A movie or a TV show was still written by someone. It started out as writing. It's just a different medium and kind of a different realization of that writing and that story. So no, I don't think there's more value in reading than watching television, unless you're watching like, just TLC all day long. Question number 11: what are your current whips? So whips are work in progress for those people who don't know. So I am still working on A Chronicle of Crowns, which is the big fantasy series that I have been writing for years. I took a little break from it. I got a little discouraged. I also lost my whole project Bible for it. I had it on Evernote, and Evernote crashed, and I lost everything. So I'm in the process of rebuilding that as well. But I've been working on that. I also have a book planned in the same universe, but set in a different time, and it's going to be either a standalone or like a 3-part series. The series that I'm writing right now is kind of an epic fantasy revolving around a number of different characters. But this new book would single in on one character and kind of just tell the story of this one character through a period that's well documented in the current series in the Chronicle of Crowns that I'm writing. I'm also working on this book called As the Sea is Cold, and it's a fiction, a sort of coming of age, well, not really coming of age, it's sort of a coming of identity fiction about these two guys who are in their like mid-20s, and they've been friends forever, and they're kind of like discovering aspects about their friendship and their feelings towards one another, and also dealing with like past hurts and trauma and stuff like that. And I'm really happy with how that is going, and I've got good feelings about that one. So question number 12 is, when did you first realize you wanted to be an author? Well, I've wanted to be a lot of things, like an artist and an author and like a zoologist and stuff like that. But I think I always kind of had the writing bug in me. When I was little, I would write stories. I would create little novels, and I would just like draw in pictures and write stuff. I wrote a bunch of like animal books that was basically just copying what I read in actual like published books. So I think I've always kind of wanted to be an author, but I never took it seriously until I was in my 20s. And and started writing A Chronicle of Crowns. I'd always been toying with the idea of writing a fantasy, but never really had the dedication to sit down and actually just plunk it out. So when I did, it was a good feeling. It was a good, like, accomplished feeling. Question number 13: how long does it take you to write a book? So that really depends. The first 2 books in A Chronicle of Crowns I wrote in 6 months. So it was a lot. And then immediately right after that, I ended up getting like arthritis in my hands. So I guess I kind of deserved that. But then book 3 took me like a year and a half. Book 4 has taken me like 2 years. As the Sea is Cold has been taking me about a year now. So it really depends on the project, and it really depends on how busy I am working on other projects. I've been working on a board game for the past year, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. So I think it really just depends. Yeah, that's the answer. It depends. Question number 14: how would you describe your writing style? So I would say it's kind of fluid. So for the fantasy series, it's more like character driven. So it's really heavy on character development, internal monologue, character interactions with other characters, and the plot. But it's like fleshed out, like it's detailed. I've tried to write those series as you would write or read an epic fantasy. So detailed, while still being very much about characters. Meanwhile, As the Sea is Cold is very dialogue heavy. So I'm trying to keep the descriptions and everything really short, and just have it really be about the dialogue and the interplay between these 2 main characters. So I would definitely think that my voice, well, I would hope that my writing voice is different and fluid and able to change between different styles and stuff like that. Question number 15: how old were you when you wrote your first book? So, I mean, I created and wrote books when I was like a child. Like I would staple things together and make little books. So there's that. But the first like published or self-published book, I would have been 25 or 26, something like that, around there, something like that. Question number 16: what does your family and friends think of your writing? I don't really know. So my dad read the first 2 books in A Chronicle of Crowns, and I think he liked it. He said that it seemed promising and that it was really well written. My sister also liked it. She kind of pointed out where I kind of fell into fantasy tropes and stuff like that. As far as friends, I've only had one friend read Any by Writing, and I think he liked it. It was my buddy Peter, and like we've talked a lot about my writing and the kind of characters and where they're going and stuff like that. So I think he's interested, or he's just pandering to me, which that's probably what he's doing. Question number 17: what is one thing you learned from writing your books? For me, I think writing fantasy, one of the important things was to organize your writing and your books. Some people can just jump right into a book without a plot or without an idea and just kind of go with that. But for me, I like to have a project Bible. I like to know where things are going to go, where my characters are going, what they're feeling, and stuff like that. I like to have a lot of control over the plot and everything that's going on. So for me, I think that's what I learned. And I think that's what I lacked a lot of in when I was younger. Like in high school, I tried to write books and stuff like that, and I just didn't have the dedication to organize what I was writing, really. I would just kind of jump into something and be like, okay, here we go. We're doing it. And then I would get a few chapters in and be like, I have no idea where this is going. Question number 18: does writing energize or exhaust you? I think mostly it just energizes me. Sure, I've been exhausted from writing and had to take breaks, but I think for the most part it energizes me and it kind of spurs me on to want to write more. It can be exhausting. Writing can definitely be exhausting, but anything can be exhausting or energizing. It depends on the day, depends on the mood, depends on the work that you're getting done. So, yeah. Question number 19: do you believe in writer's block? Yes and no. So, I definitely think that writer's block is a thing. Like, there's times when I just can't sit down and write. But but I don't think that it's like it's something that I've always found is easily broken out of. You literally just have to sit down and start writing, and then I think that kind of clears writer's block. I mean, everybody's different. Everybody's process is different. Whenever I've had trouble or writer's block, I guess you can call it, the easiest way to get out of that is to either just keep writing, push right through it, or to go out for a walk, listen to some music, and then that urge to write just sort of comes back. So yeah, I think it's a thing. I don't think it's as crippling as people who don't write or who are new to writing think that it is. And question number 20, what is the hardest thing about writing the opposite sex? I don't think there's anything difficult about writing the opposite sex. I think, writing is a lot like acting, right? So when you have these characters, and because I'm primarily a character writer, you are putting yourself into these characters. You're creating these characters, what they think, how they think, how they feel, and everything like that. So, it's just like getting into any other character, really. The fact that their gender is different shouldn't really matter. That being said, though, there is a character in my fantasy series, A Chronicle of Crowns, who is a 16-year-old straight male, and I have a little bit of trouble writing him because I don't know what that's about. And yeah, there you have it. There's 20 questions about writing and books and stuff like that. I hope you liked it. Before you go, I have some questions that I would like you to answer in the comments below, just so we can all get to know each other a little bit better. Number 1, what is your favorite book? Or what are your favorite books? If you like a series or you like multiple books, what are them? And 2, what are your current whips? So what are the projects that you're working on, the writing projects that you have going on? I would love to hear that. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks again for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for similar content. On Mondays, I post videos about houseplants. And on Fridays, I also post videos about houseplants and reading, writing, photography, art, and any other generic interests of mine. As always, you can find my social media links in the description below. Also, you can find links to H&H Games, the board game company I've helped create, and our debut board game, Season of Heroes. You can also find the Amazon links to my fantasy series, A Chronicle of Crowns. Thanks for watching. Bye!